Sure.
Yes, Pamela.
A very good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who's present in this platform. I, Dr. Kaisam Subrani Devi, Chemistry Department, Standard College Kongba, Organizing Secretary. Today's is a 9-day International Research Methodology Workshop. I would like to give a warm welcome to everyone. I would like to share some brief profile of Dr. Anu Ans Prios is an assistant professor of social work, Indian Institute of Psychology and Research, IIPR, Bangalore. Dr. Anu is a dedicated social worker committed to academia and research. She earned her BSc in Zoology, Microbiology, and Biochemistry, followed by an MSW from Mahatma Gandhi University, Kerala. She completed her PhD in the year 2011 and a PhD in the year of 2024 in social work at Christ Jim University, Bangalore, and she cleared UGC NET in social work. She is currently working as an assistant professor social work in Indian Institute of Psychology and Research, Bangalore. She brings over 7 years of teaching and 8 years of research experience to the academic community. She has published 6 articles, 1 article is accepted, and 7 more in progress, both Scopus Index and non-Scopus Journal, focusing on women health, child maltreatment, psychometric scale development, and academic writing. Additionally, she has shared her findings in national and international conference. She recently completed a research project titled Privilege of Child Maltreatment, a retrospective study among Indian emerging adults, 2025. She was funded by ASTARA, the Mind Clinic, Singapore and Malaysia. Since 2018, she has been a freelance consultant in research data analysis and academic writing, assisting 12 PhD scholars from institutes such as Christ University, Zen University, Delhi University, and Mother Teresa Women University. Her notable consultancy projects include training needs assessment for the DCPU Kerala, supported by UNICEF 2022, development plan for the JKZS property in 2022, employee satisfaction survey for KIOCI Private Limited 2022, perceived trust in socio-political institution and psychological distress during COVID-19 pandemic 2021, and building sustainable water harvesting tank for Shastriya 2020. She served as a resource person in various training sessions, workshops for students, scholars, and professionals on the topic like research methodology, SPSS, scale development, participatory, rural appraisal, women health and social work, and natural resources management in the several institutions in Bangalore, including Bishop Cotton Women Christian College, St. Ambrose Degree College, Indian Institute of Psychology Research, Art and Science College, Vidyapith, and organization in Kerala such as Institute of Management in the Government and the Extension Training Center. Proficient in various data analysis and reference management software, she utilized tools such as SPSS, Statistics, Amos, Jamon, Zamovi, and Vivo, QDA, Miner, Light, EndNote, and MS Excel. She is also adept in multiple academic writing style, including APA, volunteers, and Havers. As a resourceful and committed professional with a strong analytical and communication skill, she demonstrates a collaborative mindset. Her commitment to improving social work, education, evident in her active student engagement and ability to create a learning environment focused on both research and practical application. Welcome, madam. Over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your warm welcome. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, madam.
Okay. So first of all, I would like to thank all the organizing committee for giving me this opportunity to take part in the 10 days workshop, as well as giving 2 days sessions, 2 day sessions on data interpretation and research ethics, followed by report writing in this 10 days international workshop. Thank you. Let me begin with my session. Hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, madam.
Yeah, thank you. So today, actually, we are starting with the data interpretation, which is not a new topic. This one is a continuation from the yesterday's and day before yesterday's and previous days. Last 3 days, whatever you have discussed with respect to data analysis, whether it's a descriptive analysis or inferential analysis, how we can interpret those results and how we can present that results. That is the first session of this today's workshop, and followed by what are the major ethics needs to be considered or needs to be followed by a researcher, especially in the social science and management field. So we are starting with the interpretation of quantitative research. So basically, there is a saying that conducting research is difficult, but writing report and interpreting the result is more difficult than conducting research. Interpretation quantitative research means the research, how the researcher is able to draw conclusion from the results that obtained using different statistical analysis, including descriptive analysis and inferential statistics. All these analyses are yield to give answer for the research questions, objectives, and hypotheses of the study conducted, and how these informations can be connected to a large meaning or large sector of the society. It is a task of drawing inferences from the collected data, collected facts after analyzing data. And here, the accuracy of the information is most important. Without giving accurate informations and the clear and precise interpretations, the researcher cannot convince the audience or reader about the information that he or she wants to present. Inference must be drawn carefully to avoid any kind of misleading conclusions that can actually undermine the entire research. So basically what happens is that when we are failed to present the results what we obtained in an accurate and scientific manner, it leads to different conclusions which will actually undermine the entire research procedure. So if you want to get the value of your research, you should be able to present it very well. Excuse me, slide is not moving. So yesterday, sir has discussed about the hypothesis testing studies. Basically, all the quantitative studies are starting with the objectives and hypothesis, in which all the objectives we will check using the descriptive statistics and test the hypothesis using the inferential statistics, which we need to generalize to the population. If there is no initial hypothesis in any case, researcher may explain their findings using the existing theories, which can again generate to new questions for further research. For example, this is normally happening in the qualitative research. Though we are discussing the quantitative research these days, if in case we are conducting or if we qualitative research without any hypothesis, that will lead to further studies which we can use, generate new hypotheses and test it. So basically, quantitative and qualitative research is going hand in hand, and without one method, it is not possible to stand alone. When we are moving to the interpretation procedure, there are two main steps actually. First one is clearly articulate how you are able to clearly articulate your findings and address the hypothesis. Not only presenting or clearly articulate your findings, you need to address how do you able to explain the hypothesis that you have proposed earlier. In a quantitative study, the rigor of the results will be able to get only through the presentation of statistical significance, confidence interval, and effect size, which is very important statistical terminology, and we need to present in our every results even whenever we are doing the hypothesis testing. This approach, that means when we are presenting the statistical significance or confidence interval, effect size, all those concepts yesterday sir has explained, so I'm not going in detail with all those things right now. When we are explaining all those things in a scientific manner in our quantitative research, this ensures the accuracy and specificity of the results. That is the first and important point of noting all these technical terms in the hypothesis testing. Second thing, it helps to or it enhances the transparency of the research. Whatever way or how much ever we are able to present the statistical values clearly, it gives the transparency of your work, and the readers will be able to understand the depth of the work that you have carried out. Again, this method reinforces the credibility of the conclusions drawn from the data. If we are not giving the statistical significance or confidence interval or effect size or similar statistical values in your hypothesis testing data interpretation, you are losing your credibility on how do you bring the conclusions from the data you have collected. So until unless you are bringing this statistical values in your interpretation, it is very difficult to convince your authors, especially academic and research community, about your research results. So now coming to how to report statistical significance. So all this value, for example, yesterday you have listened Sir's class with respect to correlation analysis, ANOVA, and previous day independent sample t-test, all those things. So there all you have seen all this particular terminology. First one is statistical significance. Second one is effect size and the confidence interval. So how these values are getting, it is not a very big task. As Sir said, we can easily do the procedure in the software and we will get the results in table. Now the responsibility of the researcher is to report the statistical significance in connection to the proposed hypothesis in an accurate manner. So first one, reporting statistical significance. So we can simply say that I think the statistical significance of this study or this particular hypothesis, this one, but that doesn't give a authority to the researcher with respect to his scientific knowledge and credibility. For that, getting that particular scientific knowledge, scientific accuracy and credibility, there is a particular statistical language you have to use it. How you can report statistical significance, effect size, and other similar terminology. Normally in research, especially in social science, we are following either 0.01 or 0.05 or 0.10, rarely as a predetermined significance level. So this value, p-value, we will obtain, or significance value we will obtain in each inferential statistics with respect to the particular test. And that value, if it is less than or equal to the predetermined significance, the obtained p-value in a table, in a inferential statistics, if it is less than or equal to the predetermined significance level, that is either 0.01 or 0.05 or 0.10, we can reject the null hypothesis. Or if you are proposing the research hypothesis, we can accept the research hypothesis. That means we are proving that the research hypothesis, what we propose, is right. This indicates the moment we are able to say it very confidently that at this particular significance level, 0.05, the obtained p-value is less than this particular level. Hence, the research hypothesis is accepted and there is a significant differences or there is a significant relationship between the variables. Whatever we propose, we can easily convey. This indicates that the observed results are unlikely to have occurred by random chance. That means this particular significance level indicate that thing out of 100 chances you are giving, 95%, if it is a 95 significance significance level, out of 100 times you are running the same thing, 95 times you will get the right answer, or 95 times you'll be able to accept the research hypothesis. Only 5 times there is a chance to reject the null hypothesis. Similarly, if it is 99% significance level, which mostly used in the medical field, which requires most accurate informations, there only 1% or 1 time it can be rejected. That means our results is that much accurate. So the way we need to write the significance level in each study is important. Normally, we are using the letter P, which is small letter P, which is in italics form, followed by the respective values that we are getting from the indifferential statistics that we need to state in the interpretation line. Now, moving to the confidence interval, this is a range of confidence interval is a range of values or interval that describes a level of uncertainty around an estimated observed score. Just now I told that thing out of 100 times, if you're keeping confidence interval 95%, out of 100 times, 95 times the observed score will fall in the range of values. That means 95 times our answer will be right, or we can accept the research hypothesis. Or another words, we can say that the 95% is surety in our results. So this again yields the scientific credibility to your result. Then the steps for reporting confidence interval. This is most important thing. And normally, if you are looking at the article, published article in good journals, you can see that thing, the most important values For example, if it is a t-test, along with the t-value and the significance value, you can see its confidence interval reporting in a particular way. Similar way, along in a one-way ANOVA or multiple regression, along with the respective test value, you can see the confidence interval. So it is suggested that in a study, all the main values, main inferential statistical values needs to be supported with the confidence interval. The way you need to write the confidence interval is like this: 95% or 99%, followed by capital letter CI, followed by a square bracket in which you have to give the lower limit as well as the upper limit of the confidence interval. So this is the way you have to write the confidence interval along with the statistical value and significance value. And here some rules we need to follow. You have to round appropriately the numbers. For that, round numbers to 2 decimal place. For example, if you are reporting mean or standard deviation or any other values, then we have to round the numbers to 2 decimal place. For example, m is equal to 3.26. In certain cases, we have to use 3 digits, especially in the case of maximum accuracy we need to show. That means, for example, if you want to report significance value, which should be more accurate. So we can see that in all the p-value which is given in 3 decimal place. So as much as possible, give the 3 decimal place for showing the minimal effects in your results. Then again, there is a rule how to use, whether you can use the 0 before the decimal place or before the point or not. There is 2 main rules. First rule, numbers, any values that can exceed +1. That means any value that can increase or go beyond 1, then you need to give a leading 0 before that thing. For example, the stress score, it can be go more than 1. Normally, if you're using a scale, psychometric scale to measure the stress, the scores will be ranging from 0 to 100 or 10 to 50, something like that, depending upon the author's norms. So in that case, the mean score is always above 1. So there is a possibility of going score beyond 1. In that case, even if you're getting a value, for example, along with the mean value, standard deviation, if it is 0.86, we have to denote 0 in that case. But in the same time, when we are reporting correlation coefficient, we can't use the 0 as a leading, do not use a leading 0 in the results. Why? Means that the R value ranges from 0 to 1. So it is nowhere the R value will go beyond the number 1. In such cases, wherever that kind of values we are reporting, no need to use 0 in the before the decimal place. Hope you are getting what I'm saying is. So for example, R value, this is an example for the R value correlation coefficient. R is 0.14 and comma 95% confidence interval followed by the upper and lower limit in the square bracket. Here you can see the R value which not required a 0 before point. It can be, even though it is 0.14, we can simply use 0.14 as the value. And then when we are reporting the confidence interval in ANOVA test, for example, yesterday sir discussed about the ANOVA test, there is a F table and followed by post hoc test table is there if F value is significant. In that case, we have to give the 95% confidence interval only for the main findings. That means along with the F, or in regression, along with the R value, R square value, we have to give the confidence interval. But the supporting value or followed by whatever values are coming, in that case, even if the CI is there, no need to mention. So this is some decision that we have to take, how to handle the table value and how to interpret it. Then the next one is reporting effect size. Effect size actually serves as a critical measure for assessing the strength of conclusion regarding group differences. In case of a comparative analysis, you want to compare the stress score between male and female. In that case, the hypothesis, independent sample tutors will say that thing whether there is a significant differences in the stress score between male and female. But what is the strength of that significant differences? That we can calculate using the, or that we can explain using the effect size. In independent sample data, effect size is calculating using Cohen's d. So like that, each test will be having respective calculation for effect size, and we have to use that calculation effect size and explain the strength of the differences in a comparative analysis, or explain the strength of relationship in a correlation study. And this gives the most credible information to your study. The method of calculating effect size differs according to the different statistical test which we are employing it. And these are the some of the effect size coefficients that we are normally using in the field of social science when we are using different kinds of inferential statistics. Cohen's d is mainly using along with independent sample t-test or paired sample t-test. Pearson R value will be using as a using along with the correlation analysis. Eta squared normally using as a coefficient, effect size coefficient in ANOVA test. Omega squared is a coefficient, effect size coefficient. Kindly mute your mic. Excuse me. Kindly mute your mic. Okay, so omega squared is normally using with the ANOVA, but in a different situations. Again, Cramer's V for chi-square test, partial eta squared for factorial ANOVA, head G's for it's similar to Cohen's d, but that is adjusted for a small sample size in ANOVA test. In independent sample t-test. Then standardized mean differences commonly used in meta-analysis. Odd ratios are using in dichotomous outcome analysis, and Cramer's V or phi will be using in chi-square test. So these are the sum of the effect size coefficient. Depending upon which kind of statistical analysis we are using, we have to adopt the respective effect size coefficient and calculate it. The recent softwares, the new softwares like Jamovi all provide the effect size along with each test, but some other software like SPSS may not be provide effect size for all the tests. We need to calculate. Using the formula, we can easily calculate the effect size, and it should be reported. Always it's good to report the effect size along with your inferential statistics results. Now, moving to the key points for reporting statistical test include, first of all, whenever you, after analysis, you have to present your result section with the table and interpretations. In that case, when you're writing the interpretations and presenting the table, there should be maximum specificity with respect to the statistical test that you are using. In the table name also, is if possible, you have to mention the test name as well as the interpretation lines. Also, you have to mention at least once what analysis you have carried out, and whether that is a parametric and non-parametric based on the normality, all assumptions required for that thing. So you can just simply say that I think the independent sample t-tests have been used for analyzing this particular hypothesis after testing the assumptions for the independent sample t-test. That means I think you have used the parametric test based on the all assumptions, based on the assumptions required for that thing. Then second point is that include relevant parameters. This I have already mentioned that thing. So you have to include in your interpretation lines with maximum parameters which is required to explain the results clearly. For example, degrees of freedom is important, effect size is important, then confidence interval is important, statistical significance, that means significance values is important, the respective statistic value, that means for a ANOVA test, the respective statistic value is F, and independent sample test, it is known as T. Correlation test, it is R square, R. Regression R square. So whatever the necessary parameters which requires to explain the particular test needs to be involved in or included in the interpretation line. Then present p-value is the third point. State the p-value obtained. Like that, P is less than 0.05 or P is less than 0.01 or P is equal to 0.03, whichever is that, and say that thing, this is less than the obtained P value or significance value is less than 0.05. Hence, the null hypothesis rejected and accepted the alternate or research hypothesis. Then you need to fourth point is interpret results in a clearly and articulate them how these findings mean in the study context, including the clinical significance. You have to say that thing, not only just say that thing whether your test is significant and hence the research hypothesis accepted. For example, stress score in male and female, you're saying that thing the p-value is less than 0.05, hence there is a significant differences in the stress score between male and female. But who is having higher stress score? That you need to take it from the descriptive statistics information, check out the mean and standard deviation of both male and female with respect to their stress score, and looking at the mean value, you have to say that thing whether the males are having higher stress score or females are having this highest score. That means each and every aspect of your results needs to be explained clearly in your analysis, not just the significance aspect. Then next one is contextualize the findings. This here, what we are actually doing is that we are relating the statistical results what we are obtaining to the practice sections or research outcomes, or how this particular information is relevant in the current scenario. So like that, we have to contextualize the findings with respect to the existing knowledge and theory, and how this can be useful for the practitioners, researchers, academicians, and even for policymakers. We have to connect it to the large sector of the society. Then only our results will be fruitful and someone else can use the results to develop their practice or conduct more researches or establish more findings like that. Then the final point and most important point, adhere to all the reporting standards for a quantitative research methods. And usually if you are looking at the publication side, you can see that I think there are a number of reporting standards, which include START, STROBE, CONSORT. Fairly, all those things are meant for the quantitative research. For qualitative research, a different, another set of reporting guidelines are there. So depending upon your research, quantitative research, which kind of research design you are using it, you have to appropriately find out what is the appropriate reporting standards given by the academic community or publication community, and look at that particular standards and write your report. That means it will start with the abstract to the last conclusion session, which information is reflecting in where, which paragraph, and how it is reflecting. All those informations we need to substantiately provide based on the reporting standards. The examples of reporting standards in quantitative research are STARD, START, STROBE, CONSORT, like that. And this actually helps the researcher to give a clear and transparent statistical reporting compared to not using this kind of standard report. And for publication also, the good journals, the Scopus Index or Web of Science Index or any good indexed journals, they are looking for or they are asking for the reporting standards which you are followed, and give a checklist for that particular things. So you have to follow them, find out the appropriate reporting standards from the respective website, and then take their checklist and convert your report into that particular standards. Now we are moving to the examples. So this is one study which is conducted by Kumar et al. In 2025. This study is on a comparative analysis done, comparative study done among 60 tumor patients, and he was checking whether the tumor size, volume of the tumor is significantly differ from two types of tumor. Type A tumor and type B tumor, he has 30 participants in each. And he checked the volume of the tumor in both group and then find out whether this volume, tumor volume in these two groups are significantly differ or not. So I will just explain how he has explained that particular results. The way he written that results indicate he is very thorough with his study and he is very confident in his findings also, and all relevant information, statistical parameters are reflecting with the accurate explanation. So starting with a total of 60 tumor patients were included in the analysis. There is mentioned what is the total sample size, comprising 30 patients in the type A group and 30 patients in the type B group. So this is a clear indication of how many samples in each group of study. The mean tumor volume for the patients with type A tumor was 15.2 centimeter cube with a standard deviation plus or minus standard deviation 3.1 centimeter cube, whereas the mean tumor volume for patients with type B tumor was 22.8 centimeter cube with a standard deviation plus or minus 4.5 centimeter cube. Followed by, he written that thing, an independent sample t-test was conducted to evaluate whether the difference in mean tumor volume between the two groups was statistically significant following an assessment of the normality distribution. So in the first paragraph, he discussed about the sample size and particularly which are the groups, two groups he considered and the samples in those two groups and the volume of tumor in each group, mean volume, mean tumor volume of each group, then its standard deviation, and then he discussed that thing. He used independent sample t-test after testing the normality distribution to check whether there is significant differences in the mean score of the tumor volume between these two groups. Then the next paragraph clearly explained with the statistical parameters obtained from the independent sample t-test, which is written like this. The results indicated a statistically significant differences in tumor volume between the two groups in bracket T followed by another bracket. There he has given 58. 58 is the degrees of freedom. So degrees of freedom is normally calculated using a particular formula. When we are using the software, we will get it in the table itself. So here in this particular t-test, the degrees of freedom is 58 and the t-value is minus 5.46, 95% confidence interval with the upper and lower and upper limit, followed by the p-value, obtained p-value is less than 0.01. Here, the degrees of freedom denotes that thing. The total sample size is 50 and the degrees of freedom is obtained by my n-1 plus n-1 from each group, minusing one sample for getting the degrees of freedom. And that means 58 times the results will be accurate. It will come accurate. That is an indication of the degrees of freedom. That means 58 times it will independently stand. Out of 60, 58 will be standing independently. That is the meaning of degrees of freedom in any test. And then followed by the t-value, which indicate that thing minus 5.46. Here minus sign indicating that thing. The tumor B, that means second group is having higher tumor volume than the first group. Mean score, if you're looking at the mean score of the tumor in both group, the minus sign of the t-value indicate that thing. The second group is having the higher value than the first group. So that means the formula for obtaining basically the mean differences is obtaining from first group minus to second group. So that is the indication of the minus. And then followed by the confidence interval, 95% confidence interval is considered and the obtained p-value is less than 0.01. Hence the test is significant. Here it is interpreted as a way patients in the type B group exhibited larger tumor volume than those in type A group. The effect size calculated using Cohen's-d formula, which yielded a value of 1.41, signifying a large effect. So it is then the following lines explain the interpretation, how this information can be useful for the further practice or research section that he is explaining it. So in this 3 paragraph, he is giving the maximum information with the accurate form with maximum values and interpreting it very clearly, which is very clear to anyone who is reading this particular paper. So this is the way we have to explain our or interpret our test value or results table from an inferential statistics. This is an example from an independent sample t-test. The lines will be slightly differ with respect to different tests that we need to find, and we have to write the maximum scientific language when we are interpreting the results. So these are some examples which I have given. Sample scientific language that you can use to interpret the independent sample t-test or ANOVA or regression. The slides have been already shared with Bennett sir. You can just go through all those things. So here, all the place you can see in blue line, the important scientific values obtained from the respective tests. Here in independent sample test that I have already explained with the t value, then degrees of t value in bracket degrees of freedom, which is equal to 3.51. Then significance value, D is indicating effect size and 95% confidence interval, upper and lower limit. Then in ANOVA, instead of T value, it will be F value and followed by a degrees of freedom in bracket. In ANOVA, we will get 2 degrees of freedom, 2,68. There is a particular formula for that thing. I'm not going in detail how we are able to get that thing. And we will get this information from the results table anyway. And then the F value for this particular thing, 8.55, P value at significance level, the respective significance level. Regression, instead of F value or T value, we have to report R square value followed by the F value from the model ANOVA table and degrees of freedom, corresponding degrees of freedom. Then P value, confidence intervals, and significance level. So these are some of the examples how to report using scientific language, how to report this test results, hypothesis test results using scientific language. Each test will be having a different style of writing, and there is no mandatory rule to write only in a particular way. There will be multiple books and websites which you will be able to access and know how to write the interpretation in a scientific mode. Refer those books and write it according to your test. And this is another example, which is a simple socio-demographic profile, descriptive analysis of a socio-demographic profile of the participants. In this, 2 variables I have explained in this thing, place of living and education. Place of living has 2 categories and education has 3 categories. And the number, if you're looking at the frequency, the next column, you can see that thing, frequency and inside the percentage. So without giving additional columns, in one column itself, we are giving the frequency and the percentage. So those are reporting the prevalence of some particular issue, or those are reporting the characteristics of the group. When we are using the frequency and percentage as the main descriptive statistics, we can easily club it into one cell and report it very clearly. And wherever, one more thing is required, in this table, you can see that thing, the table heading, the author is included the sample size, total sample size. So that means 84 plus 96. That is the total sample size. No need to give total inside the table along with each variable. So that will help us to reduce the number of rows and make a very concrete table. Again, if you are using any kind of abbreviated term in the table, we have to give the explanation for the abbreviated table as a table note. This is some reporting guidelines for the researchers to incorporate when they are reporting any kind of table. Now, after second step of data interpretation is, first step of data interpretation, what we have discussed is that report the values exactly, accurately in the precise in a precise manner using a scientific language. And then second step is that draft a discussion section to discuss the implication of the results in detail. Here we need to first of all discuss the findings, then generalize the findings. Discuss the findings means you have to discuss your major findings in terms of or in relation to the previous studies in the same area or existing literature, where you have to just concentrate whether your findings is supporting to the existing literature or it's contradicting. If it is a contradicting, which way it is contradicting, or whether it's an extension of the already existing information or additional information to the existing knowledge. So you have to literally connect your findings to the existing knowledge. Then second one is generalize the findings. Once you discuss the findings in terms of existing literature and theoretical framework, then you need to generalize the findings maximum to the broader aspect, broader population, and how these findings can be apply in the field of practice or in the field of research or in the field of policy making. Then explain whether these findings are able to fill the existing knowledge gaps in the field. Then you have to put a separate section with respect to implications of the study, have to highlight each findings from your study, how this implies to the academic world, especially not only academic world, practice, whether this result is useful for a practice field or a research, further research or a policy making field. Then think about and present if there is any theoretical or practical consequences which is obtained from your results, if it is discussed that thing. After that, you have to acknowledge the potential limitation and strength of your study. When we are mentioning the limitation and strength, focus on the methodological limitations, focus on the theoretical limitations, and focus on the rigorous of methodology that you have considered as a strength. So whichever way, every time it is not possible for a researcher to come make a study with a 100% successful or strengthened mode. So there will be some kind of limitations. It is not possible to concentrate on each and every aspect of a area when we are conducting a study. We need to have further study. So point out your limitations very scientifically and clearly, which will implies the recommendation or which will lead to recommend the further studies, further requirement of the results or for the requirement of the studies in larger perspective. Then if there is a limitations, if in case you are pointing out a limitation in your study, you have to acknowledge what kind of alternative method you can adopt for the thing. So how this kind of limitations can be overcome in the coming research. You have to give that potential alternative explanation for the findings as well as the limitations in your study. Then we are moving to some guidelines for achieving an optimal results and presenting effectively. Here I'm again starting from the first step that we have, first step of the research, formulating the research problem and formulating the objectives and hypothesis. So if you are failed to formulate or articulate your objectives and hypothesis, especially for a quantitative study in the beginning, with the clear variables, tools, and other methods, you will not be able to present it very well. So the first and important step in your research is to formulate your objective and hypothesis clearly. Then carefully select and employ appropriate methods and tools, which include tools for data collection, tools for data analysis, tools for sampling, everything. Each and every method and design you have to carefully choose and propose it. Later, when you're collecting data, you need to adhere all kinds of ethical standards. That means that there won't be any kind of, there should not be any kind of malpractices or any kind of fabrication or anything. You have to completely follow the ethical standards to get the actual data or the clear data or the fruitful data from the sample. Once you obtain the data, as one of the resource person mentioned, we have to clean it clearly and process it with the appropriate technology like editing, coding, and tabulating before the analysis. And that is a process where we are looking at any kind of misleading information is there or any kind of mismatching information is there, all those things. So finalize your data, process your data before the analysis, and then you have to assess assumptions and determine the appropriate statistical test. So once you process the data, you have to check the assumptions for the respective tests, whether you'll be able to go with the parametric or non-parametric test or not. So yesterday, sir mentioned that I think the assumptions, normality assumptions, Leibniz homogeneity assumptions, there are different assumptions for different tests. Each assumptions you have to check it and then establish or explain that thing, whether your data will be able to go with the parametric or non-parametric statistical test, and determine that and then conduct the data analysis rigorously and report findings transparently without manipulation. So normally when what happens is that till here everyone will follow all the rules and regulations clearly. But when we are conducting the data analysis, after looking at the results, sometimes we will not get a significant results. Then we may feel, some of us may feel that I think we need to omit this particular information. This particular hypothesis not proved, so hence I can just hide it. It should not happen actually. We have to report the findings transparently without any manipulation. We can hide any results. We can't omit any results. We have to keep it as it is, we are obtaining it. And then if it is a negative results, or if it is a contradictory results, or if it is a disproved hypothesis, we have to discuss in terms of how this has happened, what are the factors contributing to this thing. And those factors, those assumptions, what we are making from the results will be the leading point for you to recommend further studies. And then structure the research section in an alignment with the stated objectives and hypotheses. So basically, after conducting the data analysis, you will be getting your results tables in SPSS or Jamovi or the respective software output. So you have to take that, it will be in a particular order. The way we are running the analysis will be having a different order. We have to check the assumption, different orders are there. But all the results, we have to take it and organize it in a particular manner. So the easiest and most convincing method of organizing your results will be following the order of objectives and hypotheses that you have stated in your methodology chapter. So just literally follow the same order in your results chapter and take one by one objectives and hypotheses, and then put the right table and the respective interpretation for each one. So that means there will be logical and structural order for your research chapter. That gives a clarity to the reader, and that gives a transparency to the reader, and even the researcher will be able to explain the results section to anyone in a very easy manner. Next point is the present results with the accuracy and scientific integrity that we have already discussed. Clearly articulate with all scientific values that you're obtaining from each study, and then followed by relate the findings to existing literature and theoretical frameworks, and present both strength and limitation of the study. Do not omit limitation and just keep the strength in your study. You have to report your limitation and strength as well as. But when you are supposed to mention the limitation, don't just say that thing, time frame as a limitation, or any simple thing as a limitation. You have to put the scientific limitation. You have to find out which way this result or this study is lacking some particular information, or lacking some particular methodology, or lacking some kind of strength. So that way you have to report it. Finally, you have to recommend or offer your recommendation for practitioners, academicians, researchers, and policymakers from your findings. So this is the structure. If you're following from the beginning by articulating your objectives and hypotheses clearly, and choosing the right methods in the research procedure, and collect the data with all ethical standards, and process the data without any very clearly and without any kind of manipulation or fabrication, and then conduct the analysis based on the assumptions testing, and then report the findings transparently with accurate mode, and connect the findings into the existing knowledge, present your findings, strength and limitations, and finally offer recommendations to the large sector of the academic or research or practitioner community. So this gives a complete picture about your research, and this kind of reporting helps you to transfer your result or research study effectively and convincingly to the readers. So with this note, I'm just winding up my first session, data interpretation. Hope this is clear to you. More than that technical thing, this all the points which we need to keep in our mind from the beginning of the study to the reporting phase. So if there is any doubt, please note down all the points and we can have a discussion session at the end of the today's session. So I'm moving to the next one, research ethics. So while discussing the previous session, as of now, the first hour sessions, some aspect of the research ethics I have mentioned. We are discussing the detailed research, what are the ethics to be followed in the research, especially in the social science field. Before starting the ethical consideration in research and especially in psychology and social science, or even it's related to marketing, MBA, or social humanities, all those fields, what is the need of ethical considerations in research? First of all, following ethical guidelines is essential for maintaining the professional integrity in research. So when we are doing a research, we have to uphold our professional integrity. For showing that, or for upholding our professional integrity in research, it is good to follow the ethical guidelines. Second one, it ensures or it guides the responsible actions by considering the social impact of their work. So that means following ethical considerations help the researchers to think about the social impact in a larger way and avoid certain kinds of activity or certain kinds of steps which will have a negative impact to the society or the sample. Then ethics helps to reduce biases in research, leading to more accurate and honest results. Then finally, ethical guidelines hold researchers accountable, ensuring the quality and integrity of the research that you have carried out. Now, the main ethical principles in social science research are given by Danier and Crandall in 1978, which is listed in 4 points. First of all, whether there is a harm to participants. So all of us in social science field, we are dealing with the human beings and they are our samples. And when we are conducting the research, human beings are the samples, either adults or college students or children, whoever, they are human beings. They have their dignity and rights. So are we making any harm to participants? That is the first principle to be followed by the researchers. We should not make any harm to the participants and we should take necessary guidelines, ethical guidelines to avoid harm to participants at any point of time during the research or post-research also. And second principle is whether there is a lack of informed consent. So when we are dealing with the human beings as a sample, we need to get their consent to take part in the studies. So are we following that? That is the second most important principle in the ethical guidelines. Third one is whether there is an inversion of privacy. Again, it's connected to the sample. We are dealing with them and we are collecting informations, but that is not a path for us to intervene in their privacy. So we have to keep confidentiality and anonymity of the complete data, and we have to ensure the participants that we will not, the researcher or anyone who is involving in this research will not involve in your personal or private matter, and the research what we are obtaining will be used only for the academic or research purpose with a confidential and anonymous manner. This ensured we have to give it to the participants. After that only we have to take the consent from the participants to take part in the study. And finally, the last principle is dealing with, is there any deception, cheating is involving in your research or not? Cheating or deception can be happen towards the participants, towards the academic community, towards the research community, towards the lab society, or anyway. Nowhere we are supposed to do any kind of deception or cheating to any of these people. So these are the 4 main principles. Based on these 4 main principles, a number of ethical guidelines were discussed by different researchers and associations. So here I have taken the ethical guidelines for social science research, which is given by Creswell in 2023. The books are available. You can just get that book and get to know the details of this all ethical considerations. So this book, the author has given clear sections, that is prior to beginning the study, beginning of the study, during after the study data analysis, and post-study reporting phase. What are the main ethical guidelines as a researcher we have to keep in our mind, or we have to take it? First thing is that prior to beginning the study, we have to examine first, and important thing, we have to examine the code of ethics or professional association standards which we are supposed to follow. If it is the psychological field or social science field, we are normally using American Psychological Association Code of Conduct for research. So we have to understand what is the code of conduct given by that particular association. If it is a sociology study, British Sociological Association or any other Indian Sociological Association, so we have to follow what is the ethical standards for to be followed by the researcher for that particular research, and then examine that in very clearly and adopt the necessary points from that thing to your research. Then second point is that you have to seek the approval for your research proposal to the college or university or the funding organizations, their respective institutional review board or funding review board. So we have to submit the research proposal with all relevant informations based on the code of conduct to be followed and get the approval. Once we get the approval, only we will be able to continue with the research study. And then before starting the study itself, we have to identify the site or where we are going to conduct the study, where we are going to collect the sample, collect the data. All those things we need to identify. Then some cases we need to obtain the permission or approval from the sites and participants. For example, if you are looking at a corporate sector and employees in a corporate sector, and it is not possible for you to get into the corporate sector without the permission. So if you're planning a research with that particular group of people, then you need to seek the permissions of the corporate companies to get into that and meet their employees to get the information. Another example is that if you're going to conduct a study with respect to prisoners or among the prisoners, you first of all you need to get the permission from the jail authority or the legal authority to get into that particular system and meet the prisoners and get the data. So if you are not getting that permission initially before starting your work or before planning your work and following, then during the data collection time, you will be having a lot of difficulty in terms of getting access to the site and participants. So avoiding all those difficulties, the beginning itself, you need to get the permission from the respective authority to conduct the study. Then the next one is negotiate authorship for publication. From the beginning or before planning your research study, you need to have a clear-cut idea who all are going to participate in this research as a researcher or co-investigator or a research guide and scholar, whichever role we are performing it, and what could be the authorship when we are going for the publications, who all should get the authorship, and what could be the order of authorship. All these things needs to be make a negotiation and take a decision in the beginning phase itself. Then you have to plan to keep the burden or harm for research participants to a minimum level. Every time it is not possible to avoid complete harm in a research settings, but as much as possible, we have to take the measures to reduce the burden or harm for the research participants to a maximum level. Then while beginning the study, we have to that means beginning the study means when we are planning the study, we have to identify a beneficial problem. Should not select any topic without any kind of impact or scope for studying that thing. So that when we are taking a topic, it should be useful for the society or the respective group of people. So identify a beneficial problem for your study and disclose the purpose of the study very clearly. Do not pressure the participants to sign the consent form. So we have planned the research study and proposed it and got the approval, and we are going to meet the participants. When we are going to meet the participants and getting their consent, do not give any kind of pressure to the participants to sign the consent form. They have to give their consent voluntarily and without any kind of pressure. Then you have to respect the norms and charters of the indigenous societies or communities. If in case you are going to a tribal community to conduct a study, you have to respect that community, their lifestyle, their way of living, their rituals, their activity, behavior, each and every aspect you have to respect, and do not make any kind of disrespect to the any aspect of the community that you're going into the field. Assess the burden of the research on participants. You have to make trying to find out that thing, what are the possible harms that can be happen or burdens that can be happen to the participants during the study. Especially in an experimental research study, you have to carefully list out or assess what kind of burdens may happen to the participants, and what are the measures we can take to avoid those participants or minimize avoid those burdens or minimize those burdens effectively. Then if you are going to, another point is that if you're going to a vulnerable population, for example older adults, or if you're going to a particular clinical population, then you need to be very sensitive to that particular population's vulnerability and deal with them very diligently and effectively. And you should have a support system if in case if you're feeling that thing, they need some kind of medical or psychological help, where they are not able to cooperate with the study, or where they are completely going out of control. The moment you are feeling like that, you have to stop the procedure and recommend them to the respective professional, who, either a doctor or a counselor or a respective whoever is required. You have to recommend them to that particular professional and see make sure that they are getting the professional assistance to overcome their issues. Then another set of ethical guidelines is given for the analyzing data. During the phase of analyzing data, the first and important point is that as a researcher, we should not take the side of any participants. We have to take all the participants in an equal mode, and we should not take the side of the any of the side of the participants, or we should not take the we should not be biased towards the participants' viewpoints. Nothing will happen. We have to consider data and what data says, whether the data is saying whether hypothesis or this particular difference is existing or not. You have to completely depend on the data. Do not look at the participant side. Once you completely collect the data, keep away the participants, their viewpoints, their aspects, their suggestions, all those things. During the data collection, you will be hearing a lot of suggestions, a lot of aspects, a lot of subjective information from the participants. Keep all those things aside and look at the data very clearly, and then do the analysis without any kind of prejudice or bias mode. And second thing, in the analyzing phase, avoid disclosing only positive results. This I have already mentioned in the previous session. If we are getting, during the analysis phase, if you are getting a negative results or a disproven hypothesis, just we can't hide it. We have to report as it is we are obtaining from the study. Then during the analysis phase and post-analysis phase, we have to respect the privacy of the participants and ensure the confidentiality and anonymity of the participants by all means. So your data, whatever data you are making it from that data, you have to hide the information that leads to the personal identity revealing of the participants. And then later phase, when you're going for publication, you may require to share the data with the reviewers or editors in the journal side. In that case also, you have to hide the identity revealing information of the participants and then share the data. So all means you have to completely hide the ensure the confidentiality and hide the personal information of the participants and ensure the anonymity also. Now, moving to the reporting, sharing, and storing data. So after analysis, we have to report the findings, and sometimes we have to share the data to the public as well as the data to the editor or reviewers, or otherwise we have to store the data. In all these three cases, we have to ensure certain kind of ethics we are following, which is starting with the falsifying authorship. So when we are reporting, avoid falsifying authorship, avoid falsifying evidences, avoid falsifying data or findings or conclusions. First thing, evidence, data, findings, conclusions, you are clear. You have to give the accurate informations, right informations, and which should not be falsify or fabricate anything. But in terms of authorship, what is the matter of avoid falsifying authorship? For example, you may heard that thing, there are some instances where the authorship is actually selling. That means someone will offer that thing, I will help you to publish your article and give me the authorship. Please do not do that kind of things. You have to give the authorship to the people who are scientifically contributed to your study. If anyone is not scientifically contributed, then you can acknowledge them in your paper or report, but do not give the authorship. Do not falsify the authorship at any point of time. At the same time, you have to give the authorship to all the people who have given scientific contributions to your study. Do not leave any contributor from the authorship also. Second point is that do not plagiarize. You know the concept of plagiarism. If you are taking the information from others' document or others' interview or any way or any form of idea from other people, and we have to give the credits to those people in our report. We can't copy the information from other source and paste it in our document as our own thing. So as much as possible, avoid plagiarism. And as per UGC guidelines, the allowed similarity index is 10%. Beyond 10%, it is not permittable, and which will not be accepted by the university or any journals. Then third point is avoid disclosing information that would harm participants. So if in case any particular information is going to make any harm to the participants, avoid such disclosures. Then fourth one is communicate in clear, straightforward, and appropriate scientific language. Use minimal words to explain your findings, but it should be scientific explanation. And you have to write in detail, but that doesn't mean that you can write a very lengthy paper also, very lengthy report also. What is required, and how much ever possible you give a straightforward answer or straightforward reporting to the audience. Then share data or report with others. In that case, you can't deny that thing. I will not share my data to anyone else, because sometimes some phase of our research, especially when it's going for publication with the index journals, the editor and reviewer, they may ask for the data for verifications. In that case, you have to share the data. But while sharing the data, you have to hide the identity revealing information of the participants. And all those sharing should happen through the official channel, that means by email or using the online tracking system submission portal of the respective channel. Do not share the data through WhatsApp or any other informal channel of communication. Then sometimes you need to share the results with the participants who takes part in your study. If they're asking you how to give it, sometimes you have to share it with the stakeholders. Sometimes you have to share it with the beneficiaries. All those things are required. If you are doing it throughout the session, throughout the time period, you have to ensure the confidentiality and anonymity of the data and results that you are handing over. Then the next point for reporting, sharing, and storing data is that as per the code of conduct or conduct of most of the associations, you have to, or authority or universities, you have to keep your data, raw data, for a period of time. And it should be kept very safely, which is accessible only to the researchers. And this time period also given by APA very clearly. Post publications, you have to keep your raw data for a minimum of 5 years. That means within 5 years, if anyone is asking for any kind of cross-checking with your data, you are supposed to give it. So keep the data under the safe custody of the researchers for a 5 year, at least for a 5 years time period. Then you have to state very clearly who is owning the data and who is the custodian of the data in your report. And the second next point is that do not duplicate or go for piecemeal publications. That means you can't produce multiple papers from your one study. If there is a scope for multiple papers like that, you are having different phases, you are following a mixed method research study and you are having a quantitative research phase, then qualitative research phase, followed by another quantitative research phase. In that case, you can think of making different papers from the same study. Otherwise, do not just break your variables into part and produce multiple papers from your research study. That is known as duplicate or piecemeal publications. And that is also strictly prohibited in the academic and research community. And one more thing is that when you are going for the PhD level publications, there is a huge scope for publishing papers from the beginning of your study. Even though you can go with the protocol publication, that means research proposal as it is, you can publish as a protocol. There are a number of journals. For example, Social Science Protocols, an international journal who publish the protocols or proposal of your study. So you can start your publication with your proposal itself. It will be registered in your name if you are able to do that thing. Post that, you will be having review of literature phase. You can make a paper from the review of literature, no matter whatever strategy you are following it. You can publish that thing, and you can make the paper from your findings, and you can make the paper based on the implications of the findings as proposing something, some new model. So different options are there, but that doesn't mean that you can just divide your each hypothesis into a different paper. Please avoid that thing. Then provide a complete proof of compliances with ethical issues and lack of conflict of interest. When you are submitting, when you are reporting your thing, you have to check with your ethical standards and give a complaints report. How do you ensure the ethical standards in your study? Again, ensure that there is no conflict of interest between any parties who involved in the research. It can be between the authors, co-authors, or co-researchers. It can be between the researcher and the funder, or it can be between the research scholar and the guide, irrespective, or scholar and the institutions. So no matter, there should not be any kind of conflict of interest. You have to state it very clearly. So these are the main points which required to be considered as ethical guidelines in the social science field. Now, in addition to that, we need to carefully check certain ethical and legal standards exclusively for publishing. So some points we have already discussed. I'll just quickly run these slides. This information I have already shared. You can just go through in detail. And this information, the following slides information is completely taken from the two sources. One is APA, American Psychological Association's Publication Manual 7th edition, which is published in 2020. They have given a detailed ethical and legal standards for publication. So in this particular sector or particular aspect, APA has given 3 principles, ethical and legal principles, to ensure the credibility and accuracy and integrity of your research while publishing it. First one is to ensure the accuracy of scientific knowledge. That means when we are conducting the research and publishing it, our purpose or aim is to ensure the accuracy of the scientific knowledge. Second one is we have to protect the rights and welfare of the research participants. And third one is we have to ensure or protect the intellectual property rights throughout our publications. So all 3 points have been incorporated from the ethical principles of psychologists and code of conduct given by APA in 2002, which is known as APA Ethics Code. And this is not a static document. This will be revised and updated over time period. This information, you can get it from the respective website of APA, www.apa.org/ethics. So you can check that thing and ensure that you are following all these kinds of ethical guidelines while you are publishing your research, either as a thesis or as a paper format or as a conference presentation. Whichever mode you are publishing it, you have to ensure all these things. So we'll quickly run all 3 principles with the subpoints. The first one is to ensure accuracy of scientific knowledge. Under that, APA has listed 4 principles. First one is ethical reporting of research results. So that we have already discussed in the previous slide. Do not fabricate or falsify data. Do not modify results or omit observations or to mislead. And we have to errors in the published papers sometimes while publication procedure, we have sent the paper and it is reviewed, accepted, and we have done the proofreading, and then finally it is published. But after a point of time, the author understand that there is an error in the published paper, or someone else is noting that thing in your paper there is an error. In that case, immediately the author has to write to the editor of the particular journal saying that thing in this paper so and so error has been happened without unknowingly it happened. This is a rectification or this is the new information with respect to that error. Kindly include this error notification notice into the paper. Then the editor will review that thing and they will attach that error notice to the originally published article. So whoever is reading, anyone from any part of the world who is reading that particular paper, they will be able to see the correction notice also. This is a procedure where we can ensure our ethical aspect and professional integrity while publication, even if we are making any mistakes or errors unknowingly in our paper. Then the second point under to ensure the accuracy of scientific knowledge is data retention and sharing. This also I have mentioned in the previous slide. We have to keep the data for a period of time. As per APA, it is a minimum 5 years post-publication. And we have to state it very clearly who is owning the data and who is the custodian and how we will keep all those things. And at the same time, we have to share the data when the academic or research requirement is happening from the side of editors or reviewers or the funding organization people or something like that. In that case, share the data through official formal means of communication by hiding the personal identity revealing information of the participants. Then the third point under accuracy of scientific knowledge, do not go for duplicate or piecemeal publication of the data. So I have already explained the duplicate publication. That means when the same data or ideas appear in multiple sources, we can't give the same information in different papers, and that is known as duplicate publication. Piecemeal publication is nothing else, is breaking down our paper, our research study into piece, and publishing as a different paper. If there is a scope, as I mentioned, as a different phase of the study or different aspect of the study, you can publish your proposal, you can publish your review section, you can publish your research findings. All those things are possible. If you have multiple phases in your study, like mixed method, quantitative, qualitative, or like that, then again you can think of multiple papers from the findings itself. Otherwise, do not go for the piecemeal publication by breaking your hypothesis or objectives into different papers. Then the last point under to ensure accuracy of scientific knowledge is plagiarism and self-plagiarism. You all well familiar with the terms. Plagiarism is the concept where we are presenting someone else's work as my own information or my own data and denying the creators of the particular information by not giving any particular credits that they deserve. So we have to cite it properly. We have to give the credits using the particular means. That the options or the ways to avoid plagiarism we'll discuss in tomorrow's session. And using those options, we can literally avoid the plagiarism, even if it's possible to make our report without plagiarism level more than 10% very easily. But for that thing, we have to take a call whether I'm copying, pasting from another document, or I'm paraphrasing it. We can take the information without other scholars or other academic communities information. We can't write anything. So when we are writing or when we are taking the ideas from others, we have to paraphrase it. We have to give the quotation. We have to give citation. We have to use the referencing. Through all means, we have to avoid the plagiarism maximum. That means give due credits to the original authors or creators of that particular information. Then self-plagiarism means I have published one paper previously and I'm writing another paper currently. And if I'm taking information from my own paper, which is published previously, I have to give the credits to me or the authors of those papers. If I'm not, it is called as self-plagiarism. That also not acceptable by the research community. Then the second principle for publication is to protect the rights and welfare of the participants. This we have discussed in detail in the initial session of the ethical guidelines, where ensure the rights and confidentiality of the research participants and ensure that there is no conflict of interest between any parties of the researcher in that particular study. These 2 points are meant for the second legal principle, ethical legal standards for publication, that is to protect the rights and welfare of the research participants. And the detailed explanation how to ensure confidentiality, how to ensure anonymity of the participants, how to avoid conflict of interest, how to report if there is a conflict of interest. All those things have been given in detail with the code of ethics of the respective professional associations. Then the third main point or ethical and legal standards for publishing is to protect intellectual property rights. So again, the concept of intellectual property rights, you all familiar. So we have to, as a researcher, as a professional, we have to protect the intellectual property rights for any information that we are considering for the research. In that, first one is publication credit. Under this point, first point is publication credit. Publication credit is dealing with who all are supposed to get the authorship and how to decide the substantial contribution. Substantial contribution means there will be 2 or 3 author and you have to state it very clearly in your paper that thing, what is the role of, specific role of, scientific role of each author in this paper. You have to state it when you are sending a paper for publication. You have to give the details in a one paragraph that thing, which are the phases each author, which are the phases of the research each author has been taken part and what are the scientific contributions given by each author. Then if anyone has given lesser contributions in terms of supporting your any kind of supporting roles like supporting to collect data or supporting in your reporting phase or supporting to identify the right tools for data collection or helping you in the lab settings, or if it is an experimental study and if you want to conduct this experiment, you need some kind of support. The people who are there to support you all these phases, they are contributing, but their contribution is lesser contribution, and that is not purely scientific contribution also. So in those cases, you have to give the acknowledgement to those people, not the authorship, acknowledge them in your paper. Then determine the authorship, who is the first author, order of the authorship. All those things you have to determine first. Who will be the first author, who will be the second author. All those things should be based on the scientific substantial contribution of the authors. Then in the case of faculty-student collaborations for a research project or a master's level thesis or a higher education level thesis, there should be a clear understanding of whether the faculty guide is the first author or the scholar is the first author. Normally, the scholar will be the first author, but in some cases, especially in the lower level of education, when the scholar is not that much able to completely conduct the study alone, guide's contribution is more on this thing. In that case, the first author can be given to the faculty. So it is purely based on the scientific contributions. For a PhD level or higher education level, normally the scholars will be the first author. And then editor verification. In the publication procedure, editors must confirm in writing that all authors, that means irrespective of how many authors are involving in that particular paper, all authors are agreed to their contributions. So I have already mentioned that thing. As an author, as a corresponding author, the researcher has to give the role of every author in the research process clearly in the paper. and that has to be, the editor of the journal has to be verified that scientific contributions of each author and agreed. Then finally, order of the authorship that I have already explained. So you have to mention very clearly what is the order of the authorship in the byline, author byline, and then you have to list the primary contributor, or who is having most substantial scientific contribution, who will be the first author, then followed by the remaining authors. You can give it. Fix the authorship prior to the publication phase itself. Then under to protect the intellectual property rights, this particular point number 2 is meant for reviewers. So we are sending as an author, I am sending my paper to a journal, and from the journal, it will be verified or it will be reviewed by the editor, and they will be sending to the reviewers for the peer review process. During the peer review process and editorial review, both editors and reviewers must circulate the manuscript for the verifications between those people. Only the people who are involving in the review process do not share. They are not supposed to share it to anyone else other than the reviewer or editor. And the manuscript is completely kept under confidential status and cannot be quoted or shared without author's permission by editor or reviewer during the review phases. This particular point is to ensure the intellectual property of the authors by the reviewers, either editorial reviewer or peer reviewers during the review procedure. The third point to protect the intellectual property is that authors copyright on an unpublished manuscript. Till a manuscript is published, the copyright of that particular manuscript is with the author. Once it is published, it will be transferred to the journal or the respective committee during a particular agreement. So every journal is following a agreement after accepting the paper for publications. Till the publication, the ownership will be with the author only. But once it is transferred to the copyright is transferred from the side of author to the journal or the specific committee of the journal, then the copyright will be or the editor, the journal will be having the complete rights about the paper. A copyright notice for unpublished work is recommended but not required all the times, and always it is good to have a registration for avoiding any kind of issues in terms of legal or ethical aspect from the side of any other person. So authors can register their proposals or study in a particular account. In India, we can see that there is a clinical trial registry. We can register with that particular form, and it will be registered under the name of that particular researcher. That means nobody else can take it up. You are saying that I think this research I have proposed, I'm conducting it, and this is on by me. Until unless it is publishing and transferring the authorship copyrights to, not authorship, copyrights to the journal team, the complete rights of that work will be with the author. So that is possible with the registration of the research work with the certain depository or clinical trial registry or similar national and international level registries are there. Then finally, the last one is planning for ethical complaints. Authors must submit forms of confirming ethical complaints and disclosing the conflict of interest upon manuscript acceptance. So once the manuscript is accepted by the publisher, then the authors has to give the ethical complaints and disclose that there is no conflict of interest with respect to this research. And this is a mandatory phase before accepting the before publishing the article, immediately after accepting the same by the journal side. So this is all about the ethical and legal standards of publishing. The points, some of the points are already overlapped with the ethical and legal standards of conducting research. That is explaining the all ethical guidelines from the beginning to the end of the study. The last section, which I have explained, ethical and legal standards of standards, which is exclusively for publishing your research studies in different forms. So all both sections are equally important, and as a researcher, as a professional researcher, we have to ensure that we are following all these things are in hand. All these things are following and ensuring the ethical aspects without any compromise, and that helps you to uphold your professional integrity during and post research phases. And these are the reference book that I have given for this particular sessions. And first one is American Psychological Association's publication manual. Second one is Creswell and Creswell's Research Design and Qualitative and Quantitative Mixed Method Approach. Then following the two more additional reference I have given in the slides, you can just refer these sources to get more detailed informations. Hope this is the end of my sessions for today. Hope the information is clear to you, and the forum is open for discussion right now. If you have any doubt or anything needs to be clarified, how much are possible, I'll try to clarify today. If in case I'm not able to clarify, definitely I will get back to you through the organizing committee in the later point of time. Thank you.
Yes, so thank you so much, ma'am, for the wonderful presentation. Dear participants, now the floor is open for discussion. We have enough time to clarify your doubts. So if you are interested to ask your doubts, you're most welcome. And meanwhile, if you want to give any kind of suggestions as well as appreciations, you are most welcome.
What are the softwares available for plagiarism?
Plagiarism, there are many softwares available, but the good softwares are all paid.
Yeah.
You may heard about Turnitin software, right? So that is, it is not possible for an individual to buy it and use it. So it's quite expensive one. But at the same time, other tools like Grammarly, they are also offering plagiarism checking tool with their pro membership, which is quite less expensive than the Turnitin, which we can afford for a 1 year period of time. Other than that, there are other softwares, online tools are there, but giving your paper to an online tool, I'm doubting the confidentiality aspect and other ethical aspect. So it's better to go with your institutions, through institutions, and find out the right software which they are having it. Turnitin. Every university will be having a plagiarism software. It's good to go with that channel and get your plagiarism checking. Also, you can check the plagiarism through Google Classroom if you have the access to that thing. But as similar to a Grammarly or a Turnitin, Google Classroom will not give that detailed plagiarism report. There are many other software. This is most software which I know, and other things, online softwares, online tools, I'm not suggesting for anyone right now. Hope this is clear to you, right?
Yes, yes. In the advent of the modern internet world and AI and all these tools, is it possible to write a research report without plagiarism?
It is possible, sir. It is 100% possible to write the paper without the plagiarism. I can give the examples, recent examples which we have followed in our college. There are papers which is having less than 7% plagiarism, but they have to follow clearly certain ways of writing. That means we can using the Control C and Control V, that means copy paste option, do not take any information. That is the first and most important thing. So we can read multiple sources and take the information and write down the notes or paraphrase that information in our own words, and then write it. You can check it for grammar using the AI tools, fine, no issue. Right now, all the plagiarism software are giving a separate report for AI dictation. Also, but if you're stating in our paper as a disclosure that I have used Grammarly, for example, I have used Grammarly as a grammar for a grammar checking and sentence corrections in my paper in this particular phases, I can disclose it. That means I am exempting from the use of that thing. I'm using it for the better writing style only. But I'm not taking any information directly from any other website and not giving the credits. Second, this is the first important point. Write your point in your own words. Take the information, read other articles, and write down or type it in your own words and use that information yourself and give the citations. Followed by paraphrasing, you have to give the citation. Who is owning or from which all sources you have taken that information, and give that complete list of reference in the reference section also. If you're following that thing, you can definitely have a paper with less than 10%. This, I'm not simply saying that. I think some students are doing it very well manner.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah.
Hello, ma'am. And now to basically, I mean, the plagiarism becomes this very, I mean, important thing. But ma'am, I have, I mean, little bit, doubt means I really want to ask. Sometimes what happens, the information we do not, I mean, we sometimes fail to frame what we are thinking, right? Exactly. To make the sentence accurately what we are trying to write the sentence. So sometimes we use AI tools to frame the sentence and all things. So this is comes under the AI, I mean, a detector, or like it's I mean, paraphrasing the sentence. You know, are you getting what I'm saying?
Yes, yes, sir. It will come
So
under the AI detection, AI usage only, but it
uh,
won't be if in case we are taking that information, if that information is available or published by someone else already, then it will be go to the plagiarism similarity index. But
okay.
I'm saying that I think if you have to proofread, write your draft multiple times and proofread it and try to edit yourself. And then for the grammar checking and all those things, always what normally we are following is that we have to give it for a language expert. Instead of giving to an AI tool directly, we can use it definitely, but with minimal usage. Give it to a language expert who can help you with your writing style. Of course, everyone will be having the difficulty in writing, and sometimes we will not be able to portray what exactly we want to present it. In that case, we can write it in our own words and take the help from other experts in the field. And that is a genuine way to get away from the plagiarism aspect. But depending on AI tools, it's quite risky part actually. It will be dictated as AI dictated sentence in your report. I mean, are you getting my point right?
Yes, ma'am. I'm getting your
So
point,
it is better to get
but
the
some.
expert help.
But sometimes finding the expert on the topic, like language, maybe we'll find again. I mean, I mean, finding this expert. Sometimes they, I mean, charge more amount. So I mean, it's sometimes very difficult to, I mean, find it out. So your suggestion is well taken. It's very right, and to avoid such kind of AI detector, we have to go with that things. But again, that is the some problem, because some
Difficulty is
people do
there,
not
sir.
have the language good, so to frame such things. So sometimes, I mean, we take the I mean, help from the AI detector. So that's why I just really wanted to know that
I'm not
whether
saying
AI.
you can't take AA help. Even I am
Mm,
also taking AA help. Definitely, I am
mm,
also taking AA help to ensure the languages sometimes. But after taking, if I am giving a sentence or paragraph to AA grammar checking for a Grammarly, for example, Grammarly, after getting that particular corrections, I will again go through that paragraph and I will try to write compare with the previous paragraph that I have written, and I will try to with the paragraph given by the Grammarly. Then I'll try to edit it. So our effort is the most important thing in this path actually. Definitely, I can understand your concern, but there is a limitation as of now. It is very a area which requires more which is having more competitions. In that case, we have to ensure that we are equipping with the skills, and some skills we have to literally try and get it. There is a limit, of course, I understand. But again, giving to expert, I'm not talking to, I'm not saying to give it to an expert by through a professional way. You have to find out in your circle who you can trust and who will help you to write in a better way. And you can take some small writing courses also that will, of course, help you to write in a better way. These are the strategies. Every time, every strategy won't be possible, but whichever is most appropriate, whichever you can use it, please use it.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Any other doubt, anyone? Anything needs to be clarified?
Thank you very much for your nice presentation, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am.
Ma'am, I want to ask that if we have translated some matter from any book, that will also come under plagiarism.
Can you repeat once again, ma'am?
Like, if we have translated our matter from any book,
Okay.
that will also come under plagiarism.
You can give the citations. If you're giving, I will explain in tomorrow's class, I will explain
Yes,
how
ma'am.
to give the citations actually.
Okay,
If
ma'am.
you're taking any informations and
Yes,
paraphrasing
ma'am.
it or giving exactly in your document as a
Yes, ma'am.
definition or as a quotation, whichever mode, you can give the
Yes, ma'am.
citations, in-text citations. And
Okay.
in-text citation means a procedure where you are giving the credits to the original author
Yes, ma'am.
of the
Yes, ma'am.
source you have taken the information. Once you are
Okay, ma'am.
given the citation and the
Yes, ma'am.
corresponding link in the reference, corresponding components in the reference section also, those
Yes, ma'am.
sections will not be counted by the plagiarism tool for
Yes.
plagiarism.
Okay,
So
ma'am.
there are
Okay.
ways to avoid the plagiarism that in detail I will take it tomorrow. So
Sure,
today
ma'am.
is not covering that, and that's why I'm not going in detail. So
Yes,
there are
yes.
4 ways to avoid the plagiarism scientifically.
Sure. Okay, ma'am. Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am.